Glad you could make the time for us. This is Health and Lifestyle, where we talk all matters health. My name is Marie Yambo. At KBC Channel 1 on X and KBC Channel 1 TV on Facebook is where to interact with us. Now, autism spectrum disorder is a lifelong condition that affects how a person's brain works, making it harder for them to communicate, interact socially, and adapt to changes. People with autism may have unique ways of learning, thinking, and even reacting to the world, and with the right support, they can thrive and lead a fulfilling life. Coming up in this program,
autism is not a disease. The only thing they need is just a cuddle and the best love.
A mother's journey discovering her child's autism.
We'll need now to remove some sample from the fetus that is growing inside you, or just the amniotic fluid. So you find now when we combine the ultrasound markers and the blood markers, so we look at commonly, especially the three conditions. The most common that most people are aware of is something like Down syndrome.
And how new imaging breakthroughs could detect autism before birth. A warm welcome once again into our first segment. For Mama Tiffany, motherhood was everything she dreamt of. But when her daughter Tiffany began to grow, she noticed she was experiencing the world in a little bit different way. After months of denial and searching for answers, Mama Tiffany's journey led her to a diagnosis of autism, a world that brought both challenges and unexpected discoveries. Let's listen to her story.
Yes, Mama, hi. We'll go, okay? Yes, we are going right now, okay? Yes.
She speaks gently to her, giving her the attention she needs.
When you give her full attention, that is what they love. And she'll become free and she'll be open to tell you anything. She feels like she's very safe with you once you are open to her. Mom, yes.
Lynette is a mother of two. Tiffany is her second daughter. On this day at the Tattoo City, they joined families and autism advocates to raise awareness about autism. She has learned to live in Tiffany's world, she says.
When I was in my world by then, an example is unaingia kwa nyumba, unakunywa chai, unaweka hapo kikombe and unajipea shughuli. For Tiffany, it does not apply that way. No. You finish taking tea, take that cup to the sink. That is where it's supposed to be, yeah. If you tell her go to the kitchen and bring me a clean cup, she knows it's supposed to be there. If you change position of that cup, tantrums, yeah. And it's always triggered by something very small and very silly things. Where toa viatu ama socks urushe hapo. She will not tell you, but you will see her going to pick it, putting it in the right place. So I moved into that world. She has taught us to be perfectionists. Hata sister yake kwa nyumba anajaribu kuachilia kikombe hapo, ana watch movie, Tiffany ashatoa amepeleka kwa sink.
Tiff, as she's fondly called by her family, was diagnosed with autism at 2 years.
When she was born at the age of 0 to 2 years, everything was okay. Up to 2.5 years, 2 years, 5 months, 6 months, she started becoming hyper. She had no fear of height. She would climb anywhere. She would start eloping, like you blink of an eye and disappear. You would start looking at her. Munamtafuta everywhere. She wouldn't go at the end of uniletele kitu urudi home. She did not know how to come back home. Yeah. Then her speech really delayed. Yeah, she had very funny speech, funny words, like alikuwa tu ana utter some words that you could not understand. And I'm like, why is she not like other normal kids? Mom, dad, baba, mama.
Autism is a brain development disorder that impairs social interaction and communication and causes restricted and repetitive behavior.
So, Mom. Yes? Yes, Mama. I would want people to know that autism is not a disease. Autism is not a curse. Autism is not a punishment from God. Yeah. Autism is there. The only medicine for autism is managing it and accepting it. The journey will be so smooth. I've seen people trying to cure it. Okay, Personally, I have tried it when I was in denial. Ulikuwa unasikia unaambiwa kuna daktari in Tanzania and he'll make your child talk. We went there, coming back hoping for something. When you are in denial, you'll walk the whole of this world. Yeah, but once you go for those counseling, once you've been told and accepted what autism is not a disease. The only thing they need is just a cuddle and the best love. That one, you'll go very far with the kid.
It is normally diagnosed by the time a child is 3 years. However, while prenatal ultrasounds can't directly detect autism, they can identify certain fetal anomalies in the second trimester that have been linked to a higher risk of later autism diagnosis.
I wish that Tiffany was, before birth, I was told that you are going to have this kid with this condition. I would have prepared myself psychologically. Because being told after you've stayed with this kid for some time, it's traumatizing. We go into depression, we go into denial, we go into very bad states, health states.
It's not all doom and gloom. Autism comes with its difficulties, but can also bring advantages, particularly regarding attention to detail.
Autistic kids are genius. Once they focus or once they put something here, it never goes out. Yes. Especially, that is why we are told like routine. When you do routine with her, everything will flow. Wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, make your bed, take tea, put on your uniform, we now go to school. That is the daily routine. For these kids, you have to show them barabara moja. Going to school, going to church, going to the shop. Show them one barabara, because once you divert, inapotea, they lose direction. When she finds herself somewhere that she doesn't know, she'll now start going everywhere like they don't look back, anaenda kwenda.
A teacher by profession, Tiffany's condition has been a motivation for her mother to pursue special needs education to support her daughter.
Before getting into her world, it was very hard. It was very difficult because she was going east, I was going west. I wanted her to do things my way. I wanted her to walk my way. But the moment I went back to school and I was taught, now I became a student and learned about autism, life is smooth. She's one of the best girl that has the best handwriting in her class. Yes. Autistic kids are very neat, very organized, and they're very clean. So when it comes to handwriting, she's the best.
Negative judgment associated with autism is something the family has had to grapple with. And have you ever judged someone for not being a good parent? This is what Lynette would like you to know.
So stigmatization is there. It's real. We have people who have no knowledge about autism. I would go to a public place and people would look at you very funny. Huyu mama hajalea mtoto vizuri. Mtoto wako kona tabia mbaya, you know. Unaona ile yenye sisi huwa tunaenda tunalia bedroom chini ya kitanda tunajificha. Hawajui hiyo. For them, if it is in a public place, what a scream. They will tell you, Mom, I want to go to the toilet. Or akiona amekazwa sana atatoa hapo, you know. So let's not judge. Yeah, because these kids are real.
Indeed, a mother's story of discovery that reminds us that every child sees the world in their own extraordinary way. So, what do others know about autism? Let's listen in on Word on the Streets.
From the word go, when someone would mention autism, I'll relate it to a genius person because they are able to grasp things that I'd say are out of the world.
Most of the activities we're planning around him. Yes, even when we are planning a place to go, we have to think about what is likely to give him a sensory overload, what is likely to affect his behavior. We have to check the safety measures around. So definitely, I would say life partially revolves around him.
I find most of these kids very, very brilliant. One thing that is clear, they interact differently from other kids. They behave differently. So as parents, it needs a lot of patience because you need to understand them, which is not easy.
Well, on that note, we take a break, but we'll be back with much more, including the good practice and also a doctor who will be explaining to us how, technological advancement is helping to detect autism right in the womb. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. For decades, autism has been a mystery doctors could only begin to unravel after a child was born. But now, cutting-edge imaging technology is unlocking clues even before birth. Doctors are using advanced imaging to spot early markers of autism that could help diagnose and even guide early support before a child takes their first breath.
This aspect of the prenatal screening, and also we call it counseling, you find that in the first part, before a mother gets pregnant, we always prefer that we get to interact with the mother, to just look at her family history, whether they have any condition that can affect her pregnancy, meet the mother immediately they get pregnant, and there are a number of tests we do to the mother just to confirm her health status. And then within almost 10 weeks to 14 weeks of pregnancy, we are able to do an ultrasound, and we are able to do some blood tests to find out whether there are some genetic conditions that the baby she's carrying has.
Just like you've already explained it, doing a prenatal or antenatal ultrasound or screening for that matter can be very, very important, not just for the child, but also for the mother who's going to be taking care of this child. But maybe you need to emphasize more, especially to women, because they are the ones who are going to carry the pregnancy, and women are the ones who take care of the babies. But, I mean, the man also still needs to be part and parcel of it. But then just emphasize the importance of having antenatal clinics and the screening as well.
So you find that within the blood screening, at around almost 10 weeks of pregnancy, there are some markers, or we call them biomarkers, within the bloodstream of the mother, whereby we check. Example being, there's one called alpha fetal protein, there's one called beta HCG, there's one called estradiol, and then another one called PAPA. So you find we do those tests to help us screen pregnancies that are at risk. We find that in a normal pregnancy, some of those levels that I've mentioned, they are normal. In an abnormal pregnancy, there are some levels that are significantly high or some that are significantly low. So when we do those blood levels and we get a suspicion based on the indicators, that one is high, very high, indicating that this baby may have a problem, we categorize that pregnancy as being high risk. And then now we go ahead. The next step is at around almost 11 weeks, between 11 and 14 weeks, now we will do an ultrasound. Within that ultrasound, there are certain parameters we look at. We will look at around the face. There is a bone around the face that we look at. Yeah? We call it a maxilla bone. And then we also look at the neck of the baby. While the baby is lying almost facing up, we look at the neck. There are babies whose neck is thicker than normal. We call it nuchal translucency. If the nuchal translucency is very thick, it also gives us an idea that there is a high probability this baby may have a problem. Thirdly, we look at the heart. We look at the valve. There is a valve within the heart that we look at. We call it a waveform. So that wave, we study that wave. If the wave looks abnormal, it also tells us that probably this baby may have an issue. So when we combine all those factors, it helps us to decide that your pregnancy is at high risk of having a genetic abnormality. And now we go ahead and we do what we call invasive testing, whereby we'll need now to remove some sample from the fetus that is growing inside you, or just the amniotic fluid. So you find now when we combine the ultrasound markers and the blood markers. So we look at commonly, especially the three conditions. The most common that most people are aware of is something like Down syndrome. So you find with the Down syndrome, you find the blood markers, some may be low, and then when you assess the neck of the baby, the neck is thicker than normal. So when we have those two, And a combination of ultrasound, neck thickness, blood test being abnormal, we will tell you that your baby is at risk of having Down syndrome. And then now we go the extra step. If the risk is very high, based on there's a calculator we use to help us assess the risk. So now we go ahead and we tell you, your risk for your baby having Down syndrome is very high. We would prefer now we take a sample from your amniotic fluid so that the sample can go now for to confirm the test now for Down syndrome, which is more just an extra chromosome. So a heart problem at that stage, unless it's a major heart problem, there are some conditions we're able to detect, especially of the heart. Because we find, example, if there are babies who either have a single chamber of the heart, because ideally the heart should have 4 chambers. So if we assess the heart at that time and we find there's only 1 chamber, we are able to detect at least that. So the major abnormalities of the heart, and either major abnormalities either of the head of the baby, major abnormalities of the tummy of the baby, whereby there are some babies who don't form the wall of the tummy, we are able to see at that stage. In terms of autism, at that we look at a number of things. The best time that can suggest to us whether the baby may have symptoms suggestive of, we can't say autism exactly at that time, but you say probably an abnormality within the brain that can result to autism. We find the best time is at around 20 weeks. That's when we do a comprehensive, we call it a comprehensive anatomy scan, because most of the organs at that time are fully developed and we are able to see those organs in details. You find that in any sector within the health sector, we always advise in terms of prevention of any of those things. So you find the first thing that I emphasize on is, let's plan together for you to get pregnant as a patient. So that is the first step. Within that step, we'll be able to do a number of tests on the mother to ensure that either her blood sugar is normal, to ensure that her blood pressure is normal, to ensure that she doesn't have any other medical conditions in pregnancy. And then the next step comes in whereby we start the patient on supplements. Once she takes the supplements, and then now we agree that this is the best time for you to conceive. Once she conceives, the best thing we always advise, even if the blood tests, especially the screening tests, are very costly, if you're unable to do that, the simple aspect of approaching it is just to do an ultrasound between 11 weeks to 14 weeks. And that ultrasound is able to suggest to us a number of things and give us more information concerning your pregnancy so that we are able to strategize in terms of the follow-up that we're going to do. And in terms of if we have some, we call them lethal conditions. Lethal conditions are conditions whereby if a baby is born, the chances of this baby surviving are very low. So we are able to have a conversation with the patient at an early stage. In case a baby has a lethal condition, or even in case a baby has a mild condition whereby the baby will need support after delivery, we start the conversation early.
Okay, so, you know, there is something called the prenatal genetic screening. A bit controversial, you know. I'm not so sure if you have it in the country, but this is where now you can even screen to, you know, determine the even, can I say, the intelligence of a child, or the kind of a child or human you would want to have, more or less saying superhumans. I don't know what you think about that kind of, you know, genetic screening. This one now is not just for the abnormalities, but this is now to, you know, to have children who are more intelligent, probably more beautiful or something of that sort. Yeah.
Genetic testing is more of a third step after we have already categorized pregnancy as being high risk. Once we say it's high risk and we want to do a confirmatory test, that's when now we take the amniotic fluid. Currently, in terms of assessing the amniotic fluid, most laboratories outsource the service outside Kenya because it involves an expensive process whereby the cells removed from the amniotic fluid has to be put like in a culture media for it to grow and for the cells to be analyzed. So you find a turnaround of results for us is almost like between 10 to 14 days. Geneticists have studied now how to process the sample, and once we diagnose a particular genetic condition, they are able to just predict that this is the lifestyle that this baby may have as they grow up.
We probably will be able to get there when we want superhumans, if I may call them. But at the moment, what we are more concerned about, or what doctors may be concerned about, is ensuring that the baby is healthy, and the pregnancy is not high risk for the mother, herself. But talk to us about, how does this then prepare the family, especially when you find anomalies or abnormalities in a child? What do you advise the family to do? Because I know the laws in Kenya are still very strict when it comes to issues of abortion. But how does this help the family prepare for a child, especially who has a certain condition?
We look at, for us, we try to break it down into two. Anytime we diagnose a condition, we classify into two aspects. Is it lethal or is it non-lethal? The lethal conditions are conditions whereby it's almost 90 to 100% times guaranteed that this baby will die a few hours after birth, or there is a risk of this baby dying while in the uterus. And the non-lethal condition is now the one that either the baby has a mild problem like a cleft lip, the baby has hydrocephalus. So for the lethal condition, by law, a termination of pregnancy is allowed. And the only thing that we have to engage more than one clinician. So you have to be two clinicians, specialists in that area. And that's why we bring in the other specialist on board, either a cardiologist or we bring in a neurophysician, just to explain to us more that whatever this baby has, example is, if a baby has no skull, because there are some abnormalities we get where a baby has no skull. Because the baby has no skull, the brain tissue, amniotic fluid kind of erodes the brain tissue. So you find that baby is just surviving in the uterus because of the placenta. But once it comes out, you find there's no brain tissue.
Well, thank you so much, Daktari, for the insightful information. Science that's changing how we see autism and offering new hope for families everywhere. Now, taking care of someone with autism or supporting someone with autism involves a range of approaches depending on their needs and challenges. Here are some general guidelines on our good practice segment. When interacting with someone on the autism spectrum, these are the do's. Use clear and straightforward language. Sarcasm, idioms, and metaphors can be misinterpreted. Speak slowly and clearly. Be patient. Allow extra time for processing information. Use visual aids. Social stories, visual schedules, and graphic organizers can help with understanding and anticipating events. Be respectful of their communication style, whether verbal or non-verbal. Acknowledge their preferred way of communicating. When it comes to environment, minimize distractions. Reduce visual, auditory stimuli to create a calm and predictable environment. Establish routines by providing structure and predictability in daily activities, which can reduce anxiety. Respect personal space. Avoid invading their boundaries. In social interaction, focus on their strengths and interests to promote engagement. Allow them to participate in decision-making, which can build confidence. These are the don'ts. Avoid using excessive or loud language. This can overwhelm individuals with heightened sensory sensitivities. Staring can be uncomfortable and may be perceived as rude. Rushing or yelling. This can increase anxiety and stress. Forcing interaction. Allow individuals to engage at their own pace and comfort level. Don't let autism rob them of their independence. Encourage and support their ability to participate in daily activities. We've come to the end of the program. Thank you so much for your time and taking your time also to interact with us on our social media handles at KBC Channel 1 on X and KBC Channel 1 TV on Facebook. Keep interacting with us. And so on behalf of everyone who made this program possible, that's the production team and of course our guests, Mama Tiffany and Daktari, for the insightful information and even sharing her journey with us, in as far as her daughter is concerned. We hope to see you again next week. And remember, if you've missed any part of this program, you can always catch it on our YouTube channel. My name is Marie Yambo, and this is Health and Lifestyle.